Here we go. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our monthly Rainmaker Mastermind. Sheena, I'm so excited to have you as a guest today.
Thank you. I'm pumped to be here again.
Yes. So some of you may know Sheena. She's come to our region in the past to teach and share her heart for social media as well as for giving. And it's been a while though, Sheena. You were here, 2009? It was before the pandemic. Must have been 18 or 19.
Yeah, it was a while back. Less wrinkles. Yes.
So a lot has changed. I mean, that's a long time, and your business has grown tremendously. Tell us, let's kick us off for those of you that know you and haven't been on your journey. And for those of us that don't know you yet, share about your business. Tell us about, how long you've been in the business, your production, all of that.
Okay. Origin story. Somebody said to me the other day, I was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. My kid, I have an 11-year-old, so he loves all that stuff.
I love that.
Yeah. So thanks for asking. So I guess I'll go back to, because it kind of comes up later. I was an Army brat. So I lived all around the world. As a kid, when I was 14, I moved back to the States. We moved to the DC metro area and went to school in Maryland. After that, I worked in nonprofit. My husband was in the military. We got married soon after college. And he was in the military, so we moved around a little bit more. And then came back to the DC metro area, continued in nonprofit, finished my master's in national security policy, lost my job a few days later, had $47,000 in student loan debt, and thought I should probably figure something out. At the time, my goal was to become an interrogator for the CIA. But if you didn't have a job that required a security clearance, you couldn't get a job that required that. If you didn't already have one that gave you one, it was hard to get one. It was hard to get the job. So it's like kind of a catch-22 with security clearances here. So I had to pivot quickly. So my husband said, well, what about real estate? And so I didn't know anything about real estate. And I thought, okay, let's give it a try. Like a lot of people, right? Like we don't really know what we're stepping into. So I got my licenses in DC, Maryland, and Virginia pretty quickly. I got a book called Up and Running in 30 Days by Carla Cross, my broker at the time. She had all these books behind her. So I came in interviewed with this brokerage, and she had this bookshelf behind her with stacks of this book. And there's dust, no kidding, dust all over the books. I don't think anybody else took her up on it, but I'm like, okay, I didn't know what I was doing, and I'm a learner. So I got the book Up and Running in 30 Days. I wrote a massive business plan based on that. It was probably 20 or 30 pages. And, then I get to Keller Williams and they're like, yeah, our business page is one page. It's called a 135. So I'm always humbled at Keller Williams. So I started out about 12 years ago. Talk about a shift. I mean, I didn't know any better. It was the very bottom of the market. Everything here was short sales and foreclosures. And so that's all I knew. I knew that I could talk to people. So that's what I really focused on. I didn't even know that you could cold call people. So, which is probably good that I was ignorant of that, because if I thought that was the only way, I don't know if I would have made it. So I've discovered this whole other way, which was, not the first to discover it, but really working relationships, building community, and using social media. And I guess we'll get into that at some point on this call, but nobody was really using social media at the time. And that was kind of all I knew. So use social media. And today, our team, last year we sold just over 300 homes, which for us is about 175 million in volume. This year we should sell just over 200 million. We work entirely by referral. We've never bought a lead. We've never made a cold call. We've got, 9 agents now. And our entire staff is virtual. They're all military spouses stationed throughout the country. So we've got a really easy system for how to hire somebody great in about 2 weeks. But the thing I'm most proud of is how we've done a lot for the community and I guess the world, not the whole world, but our little sliver of the world. Last year, we donated $120,000 to local charities, and I hope to get that closer to $175,000 this year. So yeah.
Amazing origin story. So, okay. So there's a couple of things I want to unpack here on this call. And I think what everybody came here to talk about is understanding a little bit more about your team structure. And I know that you, like you mentioned, it's fully remote. Your operations team is fully remote. So I want to dive into that for a second and talk about what are the challenges? What are the benefits that you see? Like, give us all the goods.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I, we fumbled into it, just like I fumbled into my director of operations. She started as a TC. So I have to say, looking back now, it's not like I had the recipe book or I created the recipe book. Maybe I did, but it was accidental on how we created this fully remote team. Part of it just came out of efficiency and effectiveness, which I'm sort of big on both of those. So what happened was the DC metro area has a ton of traffic, I guess, like a lot of metro areas, but we have a ton of traffic. So, and also our market centers. You remember when I came to your market center, I was like, oh my God, this is like a resort. It was just, I mean, it is stunning. It has so much nice space. The real estate is so expensive here that, the row home that our main office is in DuPont, I would say it's probably 1,500 square feet of office space for about 300 agents. So it's not, culturally, we just don't go into the office so much. I mean, some people do, but it's just kind of rare. And I felt like I didn't want, since we cover the DC metro area, people drive, we're going about an hour and 20 minutes in any direction to service a client. So to expect agents to come in, regularly, that just didn't seem right to me. If we're going to design our own lives, like it's just, if they want to come in, that's fine. But I wasn't going to make a requirement. And the second thing is I was probably in my third or fourth year and figured I really didn't like the administrative stuff. And so I went online to find a TC. I was looking for a very cost-effective way to do it. So I was looking for a part-time TC, and I found this company who they claimed they trained people how to be TCs. And I got super lucky and got paired with this woman named Callie, who at the time, well, I guess still, if you do math better than I do, had more real estate experience than I had. As far as she started in real estate when she was 18 years old. And she was in that position at Keller Williams where you sit at the front desk and you welcome everyone.
Director of First Impressions.
Yes, she was the director of First Impressions. And then she started to build relationships with agents in her office and became a TC, and then hooked up with this other firm. That firm ended up stealing, lying, cheating from us over that course of a year. But it was still a great experience because we met Callie. Once her contract was over and our contract was over, we left and she came with us. And so she was our first TC. And she was in, North Carolina. Of course, we're in DC. So I have to say she did come in with some knowledge, some experience. So we were lucky on that. And together we kind of built out, this 100-point transaction plan. We cover DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Our contracts are as long as 74 pages. We have about 10 different versions of the contract with all the counties. There's 2 major different contracts. So it is very complex. So it does take a certain kind of person to be able to do that. As I was growing, Callie was moving around and she was having other Army moms babysit her kids while she was working, so kind of just for part-time, and they would see what she was doing and started to get interested. So that's how we got our second and third person, is they just connected through her. So as you know, we talk about at Keller Williams all the time. Most likely the people are going to come from the network you already have. Like if you've got somebody great, they are going to attract similar people. So how did those trainings take place? All of our training is Zoom. We do have, like I always say, if you bring on your first agent, you bring on your first admin, make sure you're recording those trainings, those conversations you're having. If you're going through like a negotiation of a real life or, a fictitious experience, record those things and start to build your library. So I think that's really important. The biggest thing I think people get concerned about when it comes to virtual is, how do I know that they're actually getting the work done? And that doesn't seem to be as big a problem. And I can sort of speak to that. That doesn't seem to be as big a problem as people not knowing when to stop working, which I'm sure you guys have all experienced that now being thrown into COVID. And it's funny because when we all got locked down, a few weeks later, Gary Keller had his top agent mastermind. And I heard a lot of team leader, not TLs, but mega agents. They said, I've got all these women who are working for me and they've got kids and I'm going to let go of them. I'm going to fire them because they're not producing. They're producing at about 25% the level. And my question to them was, are you leading them? Like, what are you doing because their whole world went upside down. They have kids crawling all over them. They can't send them to school. They don't have any help. They can't bring in help because of COVID. So what are you doing to change that? So I kind of brought everybody together and had a mastermind of how we get it done. And I think part of it is this mind shift of like, we as agents often think like, how are we going to help ourselves and our agents lead a life by design? And I think we have to offer the same level of, respect to our staff. How can we help them to create a life by design? So for us, it's really about, we want you to be pretty accessible, but like, I don't need you sitting at a screen working 8 hours throughout, 8 set hours. I just need you to get your job done. And so I think it's about, that 30, 60, 90, and then building really clear expectations about what needs to get done. We don't have like a standing call every day. I find that, people really want to have control over their schedules. So it's like for my executive assistant, for example, we have a call every Wednesday for an hour. We go through all of the things that she's working on. So we make sure that with everything I'm sending her, she's prioritizing what I need to be prioritized. And sometimes, we'll get into a situation, especially with people who are newer on the team, where they're like, I'm tapped out. It usually happens pretty early. It doesn't really happen anymore because we've kind of figured out how to work ourselves around it, but they go, I'm tapped out. I'm working real estate all the time. And it's because we give them the freedom. They're working from somebody else. So they get up in the morning, they start answering emails. And then they get up in the morning, they start answering emails, and then they take their kids to school and they come back and they work a little bit. Then they do the laundry. Then they take the kids to dentist appointments. They're working while they're there. And then they bring the kids home, they make them dinner, and then they're working for, 4 or 5 more hours, but they're taking sometimes longer breaks and they don't realize, oh, you did actually 5 or 6 hours of real estate. But since they haven't created a schedule and time block for themselves, it feels overwhelming. It feels like they're working all the time. So the way that we unwrap that for people, just like we do with agents, is we do that time audit where we say, okay, for the next 3 or 4 or 5 days, I want you to write down what you're doing every 20 minutes.
Shit.
Right. And like knowledge is power, right? So if you have that knowledge, you can take powerful action to kind of pull those levers and change things up. So
I love that you do that time audit with them. Yeah, that's great. So another question I have regarding the remote work is what level do you engage in person with your teams? I know a lot of your folks, like you said, are around the country, but your agents that are somewhat local, how often are you getting together with them in person? What does that look like for teams that are kind of a hybrid?
Mm-hmm. That's a really good question. And I will say it has evolved over time. We've learned a lot. We've fallen on our faces and come out, I think, stronger and better and happier as a whole. So we started out where everyone was coming to our house on Mondays. It was the least expensive way to go about it instead of renting space. And I would make a big brunch. That was like our thing. I had 2 kids at the time. Then when I got pregnant with a 3rd, I went, oh my God, because that means cleaning. It means getting stuff out of the way. It means it was too much. And I said, so we proactively went, okay, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to go to this workspace. So we paid, I think, $120 for that workspace that was near our house, but it was also a 40-minute drive for 3 or 4 of our agents. So we did that every other week, and the opposing week we would do Zoom. And then COVID happened and we just went to Zoom, and everyone on the team gets on that call. What we changed up when COVID happened was I realized that, once things were a little bit safer and our entire team got COVID, even after being vaccinated, we started to get together more just for fun. So every about 6 weeks, we come together and I try all kinds of fun, interesting things. Let's go to a soccer game. Let's go. But all anybody wants to do is go to happy hour. So I will admit, we have really cool places in the city that, you can see the Washington Monument. The food's amazing. So that's what our team likes to do. So about every 6 weeks, so we do stand-up paddle every year. So our team here, which of course does leave out most of our staff, which is, a little sad for us. And they tend to be a little more introverted. So I don't think that they're not too upset about it. But we have started doing is we send our entire staff to Puerto Rico I guess it's in the fall, and they get super excited about the trip. So we pay for it all. They are there for about 4 days. So yeah, and I think they, everyone has their own text chain. So we have a text chain with all the staff. We have a text chain with the entire team and the agents. And then I know they have their own things that they do. So we're in contact all day. And we've created a lot of really strong, great relationships. And the way the military is, our staff is moving all the time. And there seem to be always a couple who are living in the same state, so they get to see each other. So that's kind of fun.
So you mentioned text chain for communication. And I was going to ask you, there's what's not Snapchat. There's certain tools you can use for group communication. I can't think of what our region uses. Slack, Slack. There's different ways to do it. And I feel like there's so many things out there. What's the main communication funnel for your team?
Yeah, it's really text and GIFs, GIPH. So yes. Yeah, I know people always bring up Slack. I haven't gone there because I think the text chain works well for us. So,
okay, awesome. So I want to pivot to social media and your lead sources and how you grow your business. Before I do that, I want to make sure I open it up to everybody on the call. Is there anyone with a question for Sheena around how she runs her operations team, any system standards, the virtual aspect of it? Let's stay on that topic before we move on. Feel free to type in the chat or unmute yourself and ask. I know we don't have a shy group. We have a very, very opinionated group, but maybe it'll come later. Okay, so let's move on to social media then. So you made a bold statement earlier, Sheena, that you've never paid for a lead, right? You've never made a cold call.
Nope.
So can you break down, and because there's a lot of lead sources inside of database, right? Can you break down for us what those lead sources look like?
Yeah, thanks for saying that, because people always say, oh, well, if you're just doing that one thing, it's not going to work. Well, there are a lot of different, verticals inside of referrals. So probably the largest source is just Sphere. And by that, I mean people who know me through Facebook. And whenever I talk about Facebook, it's never about a Facebook page. It's my personal Facebook profile that I have it's like every person I meet, I don't care if you're the cashier who I go through at the grocery store line every time I go, like you are going to be my Facebook friend, to, the other moms at my kids' play groups. So adding, I really treat that as a database. I'm constantly talking to it. So that's really important. So that piece, the Facebook and in real life. So kind of just is a nice little circle. And that is also, we also add to that with Facebook groups. So I run a number of Facebook groups. I run really a powerful group for my neighborhood. So we can talk about that at some point. It is a niche. It's just for women. I do believe in sort of creating a niche. And I always say, if you're like, oh, but my neighborhood already has a page or my county already has a page. Pages are totally different than groups. If you've got groups that are not, super active, you can still create your own. So those are a couple things. We do a lot with local charities. So, in volunteering, in board membership, in donating, in strategy building, in supporting the people who work at these nonprofits, we also build through there. So those like on the ground relationships and getting kind of sweaty with people in the field. We do quite a bit of agent referrals, probably do close to 100 agent referrals in a year now. The biggest part of that is probably just kind of sharing our knowledge. So if any of you have any questions, about kind of what we did, what we failed at, I'm always happy to have those conversations. I'm usually about booked a week out because I'm one of those people that, for better or worse, overbooks myself, but I'm always happy to chat. And then I visited, I would say, so that was a strategic move as well. Before COVID, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, when I figured out, oh my God, I have a system for social media and how I get business. I created a class, and it was awful to start, but people brought me in. You brought me in. It was much better when you brought me, and it's changed a lot since then. But I probably went to about 16 or 17 market centers that first year. And I was just like getting my face and name out there. And then, trying, because really my big goal is to increase the amount of generosity that we as Keller Williams do. I'm actually working with KWRI on something right now with that. But that's something I've been building for the last few years, and it really is my passion. So that's a big part of how we grow our business. And so getting the word out there. And then there's the Facebook groups, of course, where you can get agent leads. That's most of it. Then it's like past clients, staying in contact with them. And by using generosity, by using charity, we're able to stay in much easier contact with people than trying to, send them open houses that they're probably not interested in anymore.
So I'm a new agent, or I'm an amazing agent in your area, and I want to join your team. Mm-hmm. What is a system or a model that you plug your agents into, that you would plug me into, to help them replicate what you've created with Facebook, right? Because there is a method to your magic. Yeah. So how do you plug someone into that?
Yeah, so I actually have a document called Facebook Magic. I can send it to you guys. Yeah, it's one of these things where you just print it out. It's like a recipe. It's the easiest thing. You could just build your whole business on this. You print it out. That's the biggest thing. Don't leave it on a computer. Print it out and just put it on your desk, and every day. All right, Sheena said I need to post twice today. So what am I going to do? All right, so we don't have any requirements around prospecting on our team anymore. That's another thing that we pulled away from. It just works for us. We teach everybody how to fish when they come on the team. They go through my whole social media prospecting, and then they get this Facebook document. And I'll be honest, probably half the team follows it. Some people just aren't comfortable posting on social media, and we don't require it. We really do reward with leads the people who bring in more of their own business and post more, but we don't require it. Really, our goal is just to have great people on our team who are going to take great care of our clients. We built our business to the point where, we've got enough business that we can do that. So going back to your question, coming to our team, but I will say what our required standard used to be, and what we still call our standard, because it's basically what we know. It's our system for what we know works to get at least 12 closed deals, which in our area amounts to about $100,000. So you're posting on Facebook twice a day, every day, 5 days a week. So at least 10 times in a week, you should be posting on Facebook. People always ask, what do you post? What's the right mix? Don't get too caught up on that. I think that perfection can really slow you down. If one day you want to do all real estate posts, do all real estate posts. Just make sure that your voice can be heard. So when I teach my social media class, really take that time. Even if you've been in business for 10 years, take your time to figure out what your mission, values, beliefs are. And Gary went over that. Like, we're sitting in a room with, agents doing 1,000 or more deals, and we're still talking about this. And I think that's really important to hear that, because it doesn't matter where you are in your business. It's important that you take the time at least once a year to review why the heck am I doing all this? And I think what this does is it creates these guardrails around your business for what you're going to post, what your communications look like, what you're going to say yes to, who you're going to allow in your business. So figure out what is your purpose. For us, it's to do as much good for as many people as we can every single day. So that's what I get out of bed thinking about. Like, okay, I'm going to go on social media and I'm going to go through my news feed and see who needs what, whose birthday is it, who just got their nursing degree, who can I celebrate? So I want to see what all the needs are in my little world, and see how I can fulfill that. And I probably do that about 6 times a day. I'm going through my news feed, I'm commenting, I'm sending people recommendations, I'm checking in on them. And then there's the additional posting, right? So I'm posting at least twice a day. By now I'm posting 3 to 6 times a day. You might say, oh my God, how can you post so much? When you've got really good content that people appreciate, you post as many times as you want. That's a Gary Vaynerchuk. Some of you probably know him. He talks about that. There's really, no limit to what you can post, as long as it's content that people are going to enjoy and it disrupts, right? You're not posting what everybody else is posting. So it can be about real estate, it can be about your kids, but think about, what your purpose is and what is your actual value proposition, right? Maybe you had a career before you were in accounting, so you really get the numbers. You can really speak on where the economy is going. All of us have amazing skills. You were a teacher before, you teach. That's what we need in this business. We need people who are going to be that fiduciary for the client. So posting at least 10 times, going through your news feed a few times a day, and really, checking on people to see how they're doing. 75 engagements in a week. Now that can mean commenting on somebody's Facebook. If they posted something, that can mean commenting. It can mean private messaging them. It can mean having coffee with somebody. That's simple, like commenting. And it's not just like a thank you or a great idea, but maybe a little bit more than that. There's two reasons why you should do that. One, if you're just posting, to me, that's like just putting up a billboard, which is great. People should know what you stand for and why you're different, and why they should reach out to you and why they trust you. But they also need to know that you care. So that means engaging with them. So that's one reason you need to show people that you care. It means engaging with them in person in real life. But the other part of it is that's the way the Facebook algorithm works, right? If you're engaging on people's pages, if you're engaging with Jane's going to see more of your Facebook posts, and that's what you need to happen. So that's twofold. And the final thing is having an event with at least 5 people every single month. And when I say event, you don't need to spend a lot of money. It can be as simple as, you post on Nextdoor, you post in a Facebook group, hey, I'm going to start doing a walk every Sunday at 10 a.m. Bring your dogs, bring your kids. We're going to start at the local coffee shop. So you just pay for your latte and then you walk for an hour and a half and you start to build those relationships. What I always say is like, find the need. What is it that people are looking for and try to fill it? Is it loneliness? Is it poverty? What is it? And you bring people together, leverage your network to fulfill that need. And that's really it.
So that's what's outlined in the Facebook Magic.
So it goes a little bit more detailed than that. It gives you a few more ideas, but yeah,
Okay.
essentially
Awesome.
That's it.
Awesome. We have a question from the crowd regarding what are your thoughts on Facebook business page versus personal page? What is the best page to post to?
Mm-hmm. That's an excellent question. Everything I said was all about personal Facebook. I don't really spend a lot of time or invest very much in that business page. And to give you an idea of why that is, I always say, think about your 2 favorite brands. For me, it's Lululemon and Nike. And I think I love them, right? And how often do I go to that Facebook page? Never, right? And most of you can probably say the same. We just don't go to Facebook pages. The other piece is even my mom doesn't go to my Facebook page, and I know that's like number one, right? If your mom's not going there, and Facebook made an announcement, I think 3 or 4 years ago, that said they are going to reduce the investment in the Facebook pages. So you may or may not have noticed this. You're not seeing as many Facebook pages in your newsfeed. In fact, unless you go on your profile, unless you switch, because if you have a Facebook page in your name and you can switch what you want to see, what you're coming in as. Are you coming in as your business or your personal? So they've really separated all of that out. So the only thing that we post, we don't use any paid advertising on Facebook. The only thing that we post on our Facebook page are our listings, and my listing agent does that. So I'm not building anything there because people just don't tend to go there. So I want to invest where I've got the most eyeballs.
Another question. Do you use paid advertising on Facebook?
We don't. Yeah, we don't. We have not found that to be useful. I did have one guy say once, well, I found it to be really useful and I only pay $2 for every lead I get. And so I was like, oh, let me call you. I think I interviewed him and I'm like, what, like, tell me more about that. What I learned when I dug deeper, and maybe he got a little more clarity on it too, was it wasn't $2 a lead. It was $2 plus whatever his hourly pay was, because he was going through all of these leads himself. And that's very costly, very time consuming. It's probably, 1% or so conversion rate. So I would say if you ever hear about anybody getting leads, like, they may be successful with it, but what really is the cost of this? And if it's the agent doing all that work, what is that time? Tell me more about that. Right?
Yeah. So when you are getting leads off of Facebook, how does that show up for you? Is it someone messaging you? Is it someone calling you and you know that it's from Facebook because that's where you've built the relationship? How does that end up business?
Yeah, all of those things, which I know can feel kind of messy, but it's almost like I feel like, you schedule a first time home buyer class and you are consistent about it every month. And sometimes one person shows up and sometimes 6 people show up. I still believe in almost like a karma, like just keep taking that action and it's going to come back to you in some way. So it's kind of how I feel, like almost have that faith in the Facebook method, because, you know, it's hard to say exactly this much comes from Facebook. There are definitely, I get the Facebook messages at this point, because we post so much on Facebook and I'm very interactive on Facebook. A lot of times, people will email me and say, I see your name pop up in all the Facebook groups, like the Facebook moms groups. And so that's why I reached out. So even if I would say, if you're a little bit late to a Facebook post, you know, comment on it and talk about your value proposition. That's always important for us. So some of the things that we like to say is, you know, we talk about our production because our experience is important. We sell over 300, you know, make it your own. We sell over 300 homes a year. We've been selling here for over 10 years. We have an off-market division, which is becoming probably a little bit less needed, but that was really needed during COVID. So we built that to kind of fill the gap. We also offer free babysitting, which you guys should steal. I'll be honest, everyone thought that was the greatest idea. And at first I didn't want to tell anybody about it because I was like, this is going to change the industry. And then everyone was like, this is such a great idea. And then nobody's used it, but we still advertise it. It still gets people excited. The secret is we pay up to $200 worth of babysitting. We just Venmo the babysitter. So, you know, we have, you know, people are so busy. So we're like, okay, well, if it's hard for you to stop everything and take your kids with you to go see a place. And then we have a lot of, you know, single folks in DC who have pets. So pet sitting's in there. We pay up to $200. No one's ever taken us up on it, but people love it. They do reach out to us because they see it. So I guess that's important.
Well, you talked about earlier disrupting. So it's disruptive.
That's right. That's right. Make instant off mofer, the mofer, right?
Mofer, yeah.
Yeah. There's something else. There's off-market division. There's the babysitting. And then we have our first-time homebuyer class. We do a first-time homebuyer class every single month. I personally lead it. Most of you could probably do this in your sleep by now. It's really just a buyer consult, right? I highly recommend it. There are two things that are so important to always talk about when you're posting about it. It's free. It's virtual, free and virtual. And I always get at least one client off of it. And sometimes it may be like, oh, somebody was thinking about you. They heard about you from somebody else. So maybe you would have gotten the client anyway, but this really offers you the opportunity to sell yourself, show your value proposition, start to gain that trust. And we've gotten pretty consistent about it. We started doing a seller class too. My husband handles that. And he's really, I'm not in production anymore. I've been out for a few years. My husband's still in production. So he's pretty busy. So he doesn't do it that often. But his first class, I think we had 65 people come to that class, probably got a few solid leads off of it. The others, it's going to take time. We're playing the long game on the seller class. Again, that one, I always had a drunk monkey, like, that doesn't make sense. You can't have a seller class. Like, this is very personal. You need to go in and talk about, but really it's just keep that first half hour about, you know, what is the market doing? Because that's everybody wants to know. What are we forecasting? What are the kind of trends that people are looking for? What's our general kind of theory around whether you should do upgrades? And then we open the floor up for questions. People can ask personal questions. It's very, very popular. If you ever want to come to our buyer seller class, whenever you see it posted that we post it, it's also always on Eventbrite. Just come, come.
Thank you for that invitation. I'm sure some people will take you up on it. The question from the crowd is, what did you do to market your seller class to attract 65 people? I have to admit that raised my eyebrow as well. Like, oh, wow, we've done it before and had, 5 to 15, but not 65.
I will say that was our first class. And I was like, oh my God. Well, I did promise everyone that my husband would do a rap song. He would rap if we got 100. So that may have helped. Really, you know what? That was really building over time. I think there's no way that would have happened. Like if I had just started posting on social media, I think it took time. I built up a lot of support in this area with that neighborhood Facebook group that has, it's a county, sort of covers a whole county now of all women. And so they know me, trust me. And then because we've built this up now and they see me on social media, we do have a few evangelists. So they'll be like, oh my God, this is the best real estate team. So we do have a lot of that going on. And we encourage that by giving a $5 Starbucks gift card. So anytime anybody shouts us out on Facebook, we send them a $5 gift card. I've probably spent thousands and thousands of dollars this year, but I'm telling you, sometimes you'll be about to get on an airplane, you're not checking your Facebook. And I'll open it up when I land, and I've got six of my past clients who have told this random person on Facebook, you need to call this team. So I didn't even need to be that quick to the lead. I could be there 6 hours later and I have a message saying, hey, I guess I need to work with you. So it does take time.
Awesome. Thank you. I know that Facebook has been your platform, and there's other social media platforms that people talk about, Instagram, LinkedIn, they might devote their time to those. Do you focus at all on those, or do you really put all your eggs in one basket and Facebook's your jam?
That's a really good question. And so I would say for the most part, it's mostly Facebook, and there's a few reasons for that. I think my age group, so I just turned 40, between 30 and 65, people are on Facebook. So that's where my people are. I think about it like a party, like where are your people? If you're in your 20s, your party might be on Instagram. And I would interrogate that a little bit. I'll give you an example. We had a guy come on our team. He'd been in business for about 2 years. He was on one of those teams that they called every day for 2 hours, and he was good at it and he enjoyed it, but he just thought there was probably more out there for him. So he joined our team and he joined it, and I knew he was probably 24 years old. And I said, he'll be max 2 years. I got him for 2 years. And by the way, if you can get somebody great for 2 years, take them, invest in them, take what you can get from it. He still calls me now. I celebrate all of his wins. He is one of the top, we've had quite a few top producers that we've kind of helped develop, which I'm super proud of. It wasn't always that way. It was really hard sometimes when those first people leave, right? But he came on our team, and I got to go back to your question.
Instagram, LinkedIn.
Oh yeah.
Different.
Thank you. So he's like 24. So he has Instagram, everything, right? He was only posting a little bit on Facebook. And I said, look, just try the Facebook thing, post on here. And by the way, I post all this content. So take it, steal it from me. And the way our team works is like, I produce about anywhere between 75, maybe 70% and 90% of the business throughout the last 2 years I have provided to the team. So and we have TCs, we have other administrative support. So when someone goes under contract or closes, we got someone under contract. It's not, I got somebody under contract. And that is kind of that's how we think about it in our minds. And so when, say, Aaron on our team gets something under contract, everyone on the team pulls that and says, we just got another buyer under contract. So think about, if we're doing, a few hundred deals, how much success you're going to be able to show from the get-go. So, he was only closing a few deals, but he jumped on our team. He was able to take all that social media. We've done this. And he's, getting people's attention. And maybe he wasn't getting a lot of engagement, because I do think that those in their 20s, there's not as much engagement, but they're watching. Within about 4 weeks of him being on the team and posting our wins, he got a call from a high school friend who said, hey, my dad's a builder and he's thinking about building this. He's going to build this 15-home subdivision. The average price was $550,000. And he's interviewing. He's already interviewed 2 teams. I don't know if you guys have time to interview. So my husband went with Andrew on this meeting, and it was like a 3-hour, we'd never sold a subdivision before, but we won it. So how much is that? 15, what is that? 30 million? No, that's not right. 7 million in real estate. Yeah. Because he got out of his comfort zone and posted, right? So that is a real story. And he still posts on Facebook. I think if all of your people on Instagram, post on Instagram. If you come from the corporate world and all your people on LinkedIn, post in LinkedIn. So I think find your people, and I would still try the Facebook thing for a while, be consistent with it, really give it a fair try, fair attempt, because Facebook was made to create relationships. Like, that is what they're there for. And that's what you're trying to do.
I've heard a couple of things throughout this. Find your people, right? Find your party, find your voice. You said that earlier, which really hit me, about being authentic, right? If you're a teacher, if you have an accounting background, whatever it is, find your voice. If we try to go on and be Sheena, it's not gonna work for us, right? We have to be who we are. So I appreciate that for sure. So I want to open it up, because I'm sure that there's so much we can talk about. We can talk more. We can go into charitable giving. I want to make sure that the folks on this call are going where they want to go with this call. So what questions do we have for Sheena?
I'll add that I really like to read too, and I have a book for every problem. I'm just bettering myself every week. Like, what else could I do to better myself?
You read a ton. I know. I see what you post. And how many books do you read? One a week?
Yeah, I try to read at least one a week.
Yeah. Amazing. Are you an Audible yet, or do you like a good old fashioned read and underline and highlight and?
Yeah, I'm a little ADD, so I definitely highlight, I fold, I have a hard time with Audible. I tried it a little bit, but I'll start thinking deeply about something and then I'm off in la la land thinking
Got
about
it.
all the pieces. So I like a good old fashioned book. People always ask like, how do you read so quickly? And I think part of it is just like for runners, like I'm not a runner, but I guess I've heard that if you run every day, even if you run slowly, eventually you're going to start to run much more quickly. So that's how I feel about reading. Like eventually you just get more efficient at it.
So let's boil down. I want to do a time audit for you, Sheena. I want to look at, so you've got 9 agents on your team, and that includes your husband and you?
Not me.
Or you're 10. Okay. And then can you walk us through your org chart and what that looks like? And I want to look at where are you spending your time, because there's agents on this team that are at a level where we might not have the 300 unit sales, but we're growing an organization. And I think it'd be great to understand what's your one thing. Well, how do you prioritize your time with all that you have going on?
So I do have a tendency to like say yes to so many things. I'm getting much, much better at that as I, as I get to be a better person, I guess. And so I will say, so I've got so many things that I kind of say yes to, right? I sit on a few nonprofit boards, I volunteer, I try to do a lot within the community. I do at least 2 events with my community every single week. I have 3 little kids. They're 4, 8, and 11. So I do dedicate quite a bit of time to them. We do have family nearby. I really come up with all kind of the marketing ideas. I do a lot of masterminds. I coach real estate agents. I do a lot of strategy sessions with various nonprofits. And I like to volunteer a lot. I think that's it. Random things come up. So anyway, there's like a lot of kind of priority things that I have going on. And so the one thing that I think that has really helped is just accepting that like what I want to do and who I want to be, who I want to become can evolve, and maybe checking yourself. Like when you start to that point of like, oh my God, I feel overwhelmed, or it used to be I would at the end of every year, I would like not be able to get out of bed because I was like almost paralyzed. Like I physically could not move because I'd kind of overwhelmed myself. It was super stressful, not like negative stress. It was just like saying yes to too many things, putting myself out there. So my husband kept pulling me back to like what you basically said is how are you prioritizing? So I think that's really, really important. And to do that as often as you can, maybe every 3 months, and say, am I really focused on the things I need to be and want to be focused on? And if I'm not, I write down a list of everything I want to be doing or everything I don't want to be doing anymore. And then I either hire to it or figure out a different way to do it. So what do I do? So it's not so much, it always freaked me out, this idea of time blocking. I thought that it meant I had to schedule every hour of my day, and I didn't feel very free. And that's like not a priority for me, is I need to feel like I can do whatever I want all the time. But then I actually finally read the one thing, which if you haven't read it, it doesn't say that. It basically says, find those things that you need to be doing and put them on your calendar. And so, and once those things become a habit, they don't really need to be on your calendar because you're doing them all the time. But I guess if you're just starting out on that and you're trying to figure out, what I do every day. So priorities. I'm naturally going to be with my kids, so I don't need to put that on my calendar, but having at least 2 events a month. I post on social media all the time. So it's a habit. I don't have it on my calendar anymore, but if you don't have it on your calendar, you should have a reminder every single day. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. I always say, think about when you had the most energy, and that's when you should focus your lead gen, right? If your lead gen needs to be 8 o'clock to 10 p.m. because that's when you like to engage with people, then that's what it should be. Go out to your local coffee shop, go out, to play social sports or whatever it is. Like find the time that you have the most energy, and that's where you should dedicate. It doesn't have to be prospecting from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. in my opinion. So focusing on that. what else do I have to do? I have on my calendar, I make sure that I have to set up a first time home buyer class. So that's on my calendar. And the thing is, I guess I'm in my habits now. So there are just certain things I guess every day there's always going to be some prospecting. There's going to be talking to other agents who are having issues. So that of course can increase your influence. I have to work out almost every single day. So that's on my calendar. So I just found like the 5 things that I have to get done in a week. You know, people say like, you can't have it all. I think you can, but maybe just not all in one day. So I just make a list of all the things that, you know, my priorities, I need to make sure that I do these things. And then I just calendar it until it becomes a habit.
To what level are you engaging with your staff or your agents? And has Han taken that over?
Yeah, Han's pretty much taken that over.
Okay.
I'm still recruiting. Like if we need somebody, I put it out on social media. I'm usually having that first call. We KPA them. I have the first call. We kind of do it backwards. I KPA before I do my first call because I really do believe in that in the KPI. But yeah, I am still doing that. And then if we have agents who are, I mean, I do the prospecting training, and I also have a negotiation training that I do. And I plan all the fun events for our team. And I plan, you know, if we're like, okay, I guess I've given myself so much freedom now that if there's an issue, it like something that needs to be invented, I come up with it. So it's like 2 years ago, there was no inventory. So what's the answer? Usually the answer is in your question. We need to create inventory. So I created our off-market division. And so I created that whole system, and then I give it to the team to use.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So our off-market division, you know, it's not rocket science. It's really about just having someone who can dedicate the time to finding those properties. So we have a few people on our team who, the virtual staff, Army spouses, who they don't work full time. There's a lot of people, and that's something that people don't always realize, is there's a lot of people who just want to work 5 hours a week. They just need some extra spending money, or they want to work 10 hours or 20 hours. And you want to find people who are really, have a certain, maybe not specialty, but a certain personality type, right? So if you're like, I just need somebody who can create great Facebook posts. Okay, well then hire this person 5 days a week. You're seeing that there's a lady, you know, somebody in your neighborhood who's great at Facebook. See if they want to be hired, you know, for 5 hours a week. We actually hired somebody for our events, who she was just doing like this supper club, just because she wanted to like have new friends, and 25 women in our area would show up every single month for this. I was like, do you want to do event planning for us? So she does the event planning for us. She makes, you know, a little bit of extra money for her family every month. So as far as the off market, she probably works just a few hours a week on this. It's actually our happiness coordinator. She also buys all the gifts. And I created a system, which I'm happy to send to you all. It's pretty simple. We do put standards around it. So you can't get into the off market division. At least you couldn't before, because we had so many people who wanted to be in it. As a client, if you come into it, you have to sign a buyer broker agreement with us. You have to commit to at least 6 months. The way we operated, because we work by referral, we didn't generally have that, but because we were going to invest so much time and money, you had to sign off. So we had stipulations. The home had to be $800,000 or more. And that was still 25 clients strong, that list. You have to be pretty certain about where you want to live. It can't be a whole county. It had to be like a neighborhood or a couple neighborhoods. So those are the first stipulations. That's going to be really important, because you can't do what we did without losing money if you're going to cover a huge area. So they need to be really focused. And the first thing that we do is we reach out to agents who have sold or helped somebody purchase there in the last 10 years. So we pull that list, and our off-market person reaches out to them via text or email and says, hey, you know, you helped somebody buy or sell here. And why do we do it that way? Well, you can go and try and find contact information for the people who live there, but that's probably going to be a little difficult, and that's more of a cold call. Those agents have an incentive to try to get business, right? Or like a lot of people, you help a buyer purchase a home, you put them on a drip campaign. It's like, bye, call me when you want to sell. This gives them a reminder and a reason to call and say, hey, are you thinking about selling? Because I've got somebody who's interested, right? Now, if they sell there a lot, they might also have the information. You may say like, no one's going to like do that, or no one's going to. We have helped almost 50 people in the last 3 years purchase off-market properties. So it's a numbers game, just like anything else. Some people are gonna be like, you're crazy. This is so stupid. Why would anybody do that? There's a lot of reasons people would sell off market. One, they don't want people with COVID walking through their house. Two, they don't want to do all the repairs and clean their house and have all these people, what they have to clean up for. And also, if you can do it without another agent, they can save commission, right? So they're just paying you as the buyer agent. So that's one thing, is you're going to reach out directly to the agents who have been working in those areas. That's been really powerful. I always post the need on social media. Sometimes I'll post it in my Facebook group. Hey, if anybody's looking. I got away with posting it in other Facebook groups for a while. They aren't allowing that so much anymore because other agents caught on and started doing it. It became really spammy. But if nobody's doing it in your area, you can probably get away with it. Hey, I have a client looking for, or you can say I'm looking for, and I've gotten responses that way. And sometimes they've already brought an agent in, but you can be the first one to show it and you look like a hero for your client. So that's another way. We've also done letters, but we don't mail them because that's so expensive. We have a runner who we pay by the hour, $20 an hour. And we have this letter and he just hands it out. He just puts it on doors. So we usually get one call from that. That's really powerful. And then just building up relationships with the agents in your area, and if you have some stuff off market, share it with them. Another thing that's been helpful is we don't have a lot of expired or withdrawn, but you can certainly go after, again, those agents. Hey, I have somebody who's interested in this. The other thing that a lot of people don't think about is rentals. So go look at what has been rented over the last 10 years and reach out to the agents who have been on not the tenant side, obviously, but the lease side, the listing side, and see if they could reach out to those folks and see if they'd be interested in selling. That has been a very valuable tool to us.
I love that you see a need and you don't get caught up in perfection of how to solve it. It's you take an idea, you craft a system around it, and then you execute and you learn from there and you perfect over time. I love that. Someone asked when we were talking about time, do you have a morning routine? Are you a morning person or a night owl?
No, I'm a night owl.
Okay.
So I just get up and usually my kids are in my face. So I am trying not to look at my phone first thing. So I get them ready, get them out the door. And then I usually do go to my workout class. I have no motivation. I don't know what happened when I turned like 35. I had no motivation to work out, even though I've always worked out. So I go to all these studio classes where they're like, get your butt up, work harder. So I have to do that for like my mental and physical health. And then I'm just dedicated to that. I have a lot of kind of free openings in my schedule. And so I fill it up with the things that I love to do, like talking to other agents, or if there's a volunteer opportunity, or if there's an opportunity to talk to a nonprofit about, business strategy. So.
Awesome. What else? We have 5 minutes left and I can take over the rest of the 5 minutes. However, I want to create space for people.
I have a question. Just going back to the conversation about your meetings. I know you said that you guys used to have weekly meetings with your team, virtual, and then some in person. Do you still have those, or is that something you guys have gotten away from?
Yes, we have weekly meetings still. It's from 10 a.m. to 11 or 11:30. We're the efficiency. I don't like to waste anybody's time. So like every once in a while, like if we're like, oh my God, everyone's just had a crazy weekend, or they just had it's just been another crazy week, we'll just cancel the meeting and just let people breathe. If they need us, they can reach out to us. So I think that's important. It's the same thing, pretty much the same thing every time. So we get on there, weekend wins, and then we say, weekend wins, and then we may or may not have a guest. We don't let them on for too long, 20 minutes or so, the title company or something like that. We'll go through our new listings, any open house opportunities, and then we do usually a training and maybe like 30 minutes of like, here's an example, seller subsidy. I don't know about what your market's doing, but our market is slowing down. And we have agents on our team who have never used a seller subsidy. They have no idea what that is, right? So I think it's really important that we go back to some of those basics, some of those things from the markets of past. Otherwise, what we get caught up in, and you guys might already be seeing this on the listing side, you see these agents coming in with these wild offers. They're still making offers from 12 weeks ago, right? It's like, oh, okay, well, thanks, I'll take it. We didn't need to go this high. There's no competition. So having those conversations, speaking on things that folks need to be trained on, and then we do a roundtable and just open it up. So it may be an hour, maybe an hour and a half. There's a really great book called The Art of Gathering, which I highly recommend. If you haven't read it, The Art of Gathering, actually my social media class has now turned into like business, and it is an analogy of this book of like, you need to be really purposeful with every meeting you have, every gathering, right? Whether you're meeting with somebody one-on-one for coffee, like you have to think just like about your business. What is the purpose of this, right? Who do I want here? We've actually gotten away from full client appreciation events. We don't invite all of our past clients anymore. What we realized is we can be a lot more, we can hold our marketing dollars accountable and really get more of what we want by being more focused about who we bring. So now we have events for people who refer business to us. That's really where we focus our energy and our money. And so the Art of Gathering really gave us a lot to think about there. So not even with client appreciation events, but also your own in-person meetings. Do they really speak to your culture, right? Or is it everybody sits around a cold room and one person's talking at everybody? Like, what kind of culture is it? What are you trying to create in this gathering? So it's something to think about.
That's great. Thank you.
And Mandy has a question. I know you know Mandy well. Mandy, can you elaborate on your question in the chat? I just want to make sure we're getting to the heart of it.
Sure, I can even elaborate here. Hi, Sheena. So in terms of weekly, how are you monitoring the agents' leads coming in? So you mentioned that you do lead disbursement based on who's bringing in leads. What's your structure around that? Is it, you can see how many you're adding to the database? Do you have a system around knowing their lead gen and what they've accomplished throughout that week?
Yes, that's a really good question. So, yes, we do. So one of the things that we realized is as we started to grow larger, and I was just throwing out leads all the time and leads were coming in, every once in a while, a lead would not be followed up on. And that is like heartbreaking, especially when you're running a referral business, right? It wasn't so much about like, we're losing the money. It was like, this human didn't get the love that they deserved. And I could not let that happen. So what we created was, I get most of the business. And so I will send that to an agent. Hey, here's somebody, let me know how it goes. And I always BCC my assistant, and she makes sure it gets in the database, number one. So we don't put that, we try to take all the as much administrative off of our agents as possible. I think that's important so they can just focus on the client. And then she follows up with them. So within 48 hours to make sure that they've followed up. And that may seem like, oh my God, why isn't she following up after 30 minutes? Our agents are quick at this point. And so this is just to make sure they don't get left behind. So they also go, that person is not only added to our CRM Brivity, but they also go on their Airtable, which is kind of like a nice little simple spreadsheet that's got all their hot leads on it. So we make sure that happens when they bring, and then my assistant has a meeting every single week for 10 minutes with each agent to go through their Airtable, which is basically, all right, have you followed up with these people? And do you have anyone who just came in through your world that you need to enter on here? So it's a good check, and that really works for us. It holds them accountable. They love it. They love that 10-minute check because they either 10 minutes before they update it or they do it on the call. So that's one thing. Our director of operations tracks all of that. So, and at the end of the week, we have this huge dashboard that she sends to leadership on our team that has like, who's bringing in what are the referral sources. So that's how we look at it. As far as dispersing who I disperse to, it's pretty complex here. I can look at that dashboard and I always kind of know where people are. There's also an on and off button that we've created over the last few weeks because I always forget who's still taking leads and who's not, who's on vacation, who's overwhelmed. Part of it is like who's licensed where. A lot of our agents are licensed everywhere, but some are only licensed in some areas. The biggest thing, honestly, is personality. That's the first thing I go off of. Is this a good personality match based on a few minutes of conversation? Or if I can get some information from the referring agent on who this person is. So the biggest thing is personality. And of course, I guess it makes sense if somebody is really successful in bringing in business, most likely they're pretty adaptable. So they can pretty much take anyone. So you kind of like, if you're looking like you're trying to find somebody, you're not sure what the person is like, the top producers on your team are probably going to be able to take almost anyone. So that's kind of how I look at it. Like who's the personality match, and are they indeed, and answer the next question of like, are they bringing in business? And if they're not, I may throw them something that's not like a really great lead, right? Just to kind of get them going. And of course, where their license is important too. But that's pretty much how I do it. It's a little bit entrepreneurial. It's not as I mean, it is purposeful, I guess. It's just maybe it could be cleaner. I don't know.
I'm
Awesome.
sorry, can I ask a question? I may have missed this, but so are you saying that you're personally doling out each lead? Like you're looking at the lead and then you're deciding who gets it? That's the
Mhm.
system for it?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. And you don't feel that that's a lot on you as the team lead? Or do you feel like
No.
that's your job?
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of my job. I feel in control because that's still my baby. You know, the people coming in who choose us. That's like my favorite part. Like they're choosing us. So that is the most important thing. And then I just throw it off to the agent, and then I have all the systems that handle everything after that. And I feel good about that. But yeah, this first part, I still hold on to that. I don't usually have a conversation with the people. So it doesn't take a lot of time. You know, if I get 2 to 4 leads a day, like doesn't take too much time. I'm just figuring out where they go. Takes like 5 or 6 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you for that question. So why don't we do this, Sheena? Because I know we're up for time and I value your time. There was a couple of things you were willing to share with us. I think you said Facebook magic, and then you mentioned something about the off-market division, right?
Yeah.
To save your inbox, why don't you send those over to me? And then if I could ask everyone on the call to do me a favor, send me an email. Normally I say type your email in the chat box, but then I have to copy and paste and it's a nightmare. So send me an email. I'll type it in the chat box, susanglenz@kw.com. And, sorry, I sent that privately. And I will forward those over to you. That way we'll streamline it for Sheena. How does that sound? And then Sheena, how can people reach you? So just remind us again where you serve, and if people have referrals, we'd love for your team to help.
Thank you. So I'm in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. I'll put it in here. Virginia. I am on Facebook. I don't know how much room I have. I keep trying to, remove people I'm not engaging with too much. But so you can find me on Facebook under that name, and I'll put my email address in. Yeah, and we would love to help. We do so many agent referrals. We do have a system for that too. You'll get updated every other week on how it's going. But we have a very high close rate. We start out with a really deep dive buyer consultation. We have our guide, but we also go through, it's about an hour long. Even if they bought 10 homes, you're still going to go through it because we do things differently. And we really do believe in protecting and advocating for our clients every step of the way. We don't hard sell anybody, but we are, I think, really good negotiators. We also go to that CNE training in New York. I don't know if you guys have been there, but it's great. I think it's all virtual now.
What's that CNE stand for?
Yes, Certified Negotiation Expert. It's
okay.
a really good class. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Good to know. So yeah, reach out to Sheena for all of your needs. I can personally vouch you have helped a handful of our referrals over the years, and it's been a great process. We appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your time and talent, Sheena.
Thank you all. I appreciate you. Reach out for anything. I'd love to talk. Thank you so much for the time.
Have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Bye.